Virtually all New Testament critics today agree that after Jesus' crucifixion, various individuals and even groups of people experienced appearances of Jesus alive. And part of the evidence that goes to support this would be, number one, that Paul gives a list of eyewitnesses to these resurrection appearances in 1 Corinthians chapter 15 that guarantees that such appearances occurred. New Testament scholars have shown that in this chapter, Paul is not writing freehand. Rather, he is passing on to the church in Corinth an old tradition that he himself received, and that probably goes back to within the first 5 years after Jesus' crucifixion. So these appearances cannot be dismissed as legends that accrued and developed over the decades and over the years. There simply wasn't time. Indeed, people were still alive who could be asked about these visions of Jesus that various individuals had seen. And so you can write these off as hallucinations if you want to. You can deny their veridicality and say these people were all hallucinating, but you can't deny responsibly that these events did occur. Paul's information has convinced virtually everybody that after the crucifixion of Jesus, various individuals and groups did experience these appearances of Jesus alive. Secondly, the gospel accounts provide multiple independent attestation of these post-mortem appearances. This is one of the most important proofs of historicity that historians use. If you have independent accounts of the same event, at least one of which is early, then it's much more likely that that event actually occurred than that these two independent sources independently came to make this up. And with regard to the appearances, these are attested in some of the earliest New Testament sources that we have, like this information from Paul, but then also in the pre-Markan story of the final week of Jesus' life, what is usually called the Passion of Jesus. So these appearance stories have early, independent, multiple attestation, which counts for their historicity. And then third point I would just like to mention would be that some of these appearances have earmarks of historicity. And I'm thinking, for example, of the appearance mentioned by Paul that Jesus, after his death, appeared to his younger brother, James. But then after the death of Jesus, after his crucifixion, we suddenly find that James emerges as a principal Christian leader in the early church and eventually becomes the sole leader of the church in Jerusalem. And from the Jewish historian Josephus, we learn that James was martyred for his faith in the mid-AD 60s during a lapse in the civil government, martyred for his faith in Jesus. Now, that's extraordinary. What would it take to convince you that your brother is the Lord so that you would be willing to die for that belief?